Welcome to Mainland Television, Nelson Tasman's local regional television station. I'm Tania Omar, and some of the stories coming up in our regional news roundup. Council's Code of Conduct questioned, disaster planning in motion, #1 hitmaker in Australia, Nelson artist Ali Cook on New Zealand Music Month, and more. It was a busy day again for the Nelson Marlborough Rescue Helicopter Service, again on Sunday, but not for the usual dramatic life and death reasons. The Nelson Marlborough Rescue Helicopter Service hosted an open day to celebrate 25 years of service for our community. This day was used to raise funds and awareness of the service and also of all the rescue services that operate within our region. The day was fun-filled with many of the activities designed around the kids, with face painting and bouncy castles as just part of those provided. Chrissy Small was there and caught up with Paula Muddle, who was one of the Helicopter Trust's on-the-ground coordinators.
Paula, 25 years. Tell us a bit about what you've got going on down here.
It's pretty exciting to think that 25 years ago a group of local people got together and decided they needed a rescue helicopter service. We've just gone strength to strength because of the support of the community. You can see here today, everyone's here because they love it, they support it, and they want to continue having a rescue helicopter service in the community.
Look, it's getting busier and busier. Tourism is getting busier, and of course that means more demand on the service. How are you paying for it?
How are we paying for it? We're asking the community to really step up. Even though we've been here 25 years, we're not going anywhere. Every year we get busier, and we just need more funding.
Does the government give you any funds at all?
The government funding covers about 30% of what we need, and the rest comes from the community through grants and service groups, fundraising, corporate sponsorship, and gaming machine trusts. Oh, being the good weather that we've had today, I'd say, over the day we'll probably have 3,000 to 4,000 people through, which is really good. We always do it at the end of the school holidays. It's a good excuse to get out and do something with the family.
Yeah. Tell me, do you get many people who have been rescued coming into these events?
Yep, I just had a lady who just walked through the gate and passed over $1,000 and showed me her son, who wouldn't be here today. So
there's a lot of grateful people out there.
Yeah, they want to, our door's always open, but they often use today as an excuse to come and just say thank you and meet the crew.
Tell me, the service, 25 years, how many crew are available now for the service?
There's 3 crew rostered on 24/7, 4 days on, 4 days off. 24/7.
Yeah. So the total amount of people employed by the service?
St John contract to us, so we have a pool of about 5, and then our crew, we've got 2 pilots and 2 crewmen.
Okay. Well, Paula Muddle, it's a fantastic day. What a great service, and I see we had it was a bit breezy for old Brittany from the breeze.
I know.
There,
she's going, yeah.
She looked like she was having a bit of fun.
I'll go and make sure she's okay.
Okay.
The weekend's Rescue Helicopter Open Day event also hosted helicopter rides for people wanting to pay to experience the feel of being in the air. Meanwhile, some families attended in hope of a chance to be in to win a seat if their young child was one of the lucky 4 picked to win a free helicopter flight for dressing in the best rescue-themed costume competition on the day. Brittany from the Breeze was one of the 4 who judged the costume competition soon after being part of the mid-air winch demonstration, where she was assisted into a large sling seat before being winched up to the hovering helicopter. Spectators of all ages didn't seem to mind being blown about by the aircraft's air turbulence downdraft caused by the helicopter's rotors, while they watched the well-known radio personality being hoisted above the tarmac, armed with her selfie stick. This gave all a chance to see the helicopter's life-saving winch in action. Chrissy spoke to Brittany before her winching.
I'm very nervous.
Yeah, is this the first time you've been able to do this?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. And hi, Janella.
Are you scared of heights?
Yes, extremely. Yeah. She looks scared. She is. Does she not normally do it? Oh, not like heights.
Once back on terra firma, Breffney got on with the job with 3 other judges of choosing the 4 young winners from the large selection of costume children, from the superheroes to surgical figures, search and rescue and police, to one dressed up as the rescue helicopter.
First of all, I've got to thank my co-judges, Nicole and Leah here, part of the rescue helicopter bunch. They are awesome. And also Carl, my rescue guy. I think it's probably easier if I walk towards them in order of no particular order. No particular order? Here we go. Come with me, Dan.
All right. Winner number 1. Welcome New Zealand Police Force. Let's give her a nice big round of applause.
That's a good outfit, man.
Complete with weapons and all.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite know what's going on. Winner number 2 is our hospital worker.
Yay.
Complete with props and all. Congratulations. Winner number 3. Getting down the other end.
No surprise.
Stop the costume. Correct colourways and everything. And winner number 4. The Search and Rescue Man. Yeah. That is a full-on costume. He looks like he could work for Search and Rescue. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. He does. There we go. Let's give them all a very big round of applause. Congratulations to our winners and thank you to everyone who did dress up this year.
Pastel Artists of New Zealand, PANZ, were in Mapua from the 15th of April until this last weekend, promoting and encouraging the use of pastel as a serious art medium. Chrissy Small caught up with Mapua artist Judy Marsh, who was part of the organisation's national exhibition and competition, who was there doing a demonstration at the new Mapua Hall on the weekend.
How many exhibitors are actually here?
Oh, about 50 odd.
Right.
And we've had about 2,000 people coming through so far to see it all.
How many on opening night, which was what, the 15th?
The 15th on opening night, there would be about 300 roughly. I don't know the exact figures, but it was a fabulous night. It's the best we've ever had.
And look, we've got such a stunning building for it, and I guess that's been well received as well.
Yes, it has. It's been a great... when we started in 2006, we had our first one, and it was when we had the old one, and now it's all been improved, the lighting and the space and everything. It's just absolutely great.
Now, tell me a bit about some of these exhibitors. Are they all local, or where are they from?
No, it's a national exhibition, so it includes artists from all over the country, right from the very north, from Northland right down to Invercargill. And we've got, nearly 300 members now, which is absolutely super for PANZ. And in our little group here in Nelson, we've got about, I think it's 40. We've got the largest one, in actual fact, at the moment.
And look, I tell you, the artwork here is gorgeous. I'm just having a look at these wonderful dogs. Now, you obviously have a passion for animals.
Well, yes. Having been a buyer in stores and dealt with people for so long, I decided to get out and had a grooming parlour. And I was very fortunate in Edinburgh to have a lady who did this sort of work, and showed it in the front of my shop, and that got me going. And I've been doing it for about 30 odd years now, and I just love it. It's a wonderful, wonderful medium for doing hair and things like that. And pastel is so good because you can get out of your mistakes so well, and it's just got so much to offer. It's really...
Now, with pastel, how do you seal it?
You can actually seal it with a special spray, but mostly we don't do that, but you can shake it or you can just knock it very quietly. It's a very difficult medium to sort of post and send around, but it's all protected with glass, and behind the glass there's a little spacer, so if there's anything loose it goes down behind the actual mounting. So it's all overcome by techniques with the framer.
Right, and as we know, all good artwork needs a good framer.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Now, I believe we've got some local artists exhibiting here. Can you name a few of those for me?
We've got Ron Oliver over there. There's myself. There's Glenys Forbes. She's our convener. She has work in. There's Annie de Groot, and let me see, Sue England, Mike Busby. There's so many. Marion Towns, Barbara Trotter, Anne Bannock. Anne Bannock, yes. It's just purely pastel. It's a purely pastel exhibition. And it's really coming into its fore now because people didn't realise what we could do with pastel, in actual fact. So there.
That's great, isn't it? And
Yes.
very, very colourful.
Oh, it is. There's wonderful colours. And Glenys and I went to Albuquerque last year and to the big convention over there for pastel artists from around the world. And it's just amazing how our eyes were open to beautiful papers and different pastels and everything. But everything's gradually coming into this country now, courtesy of Impressions down in Nelson.
Oh, that's great, isn't it? Well, it's good that there's that support there in retail, and obviously it's helping budding artists come through. You said that there's over 2,000 people that have come through the doors. What's the general reaction from those people?
Absolutely amazed. Absolutely amazed. Absolutely, they can't get over what pastel can produce, in the pictures, and the variety that there's been, and the colours that have been put into it, and just the whole ambience of the whole thing has been really, really appreciated.
Have you had many children very keen to get their hands into pastels after this exhibition?
Oh yes, I think that some of them already do it, and as you see, we have an award for Alice Reed, and she's our junior member. She's not been here because she's at university now, but she's a cracking little pastel artist. And the children come to the class sometimes from Bounce up the road, and they come round and they have a play and a little fiddle. So, because they're doing it at school. But it's so nice to see grown-ups and everybody right into it now.
The exhibition has now finished, but the local pastel group will be holding an exhibition in February next year. You can find out more about pastel art on the website pastelartists.co.nz. What does Council's Code of Conduct really mean for freedom of speech? Mainland, as a news organisation, has noticed over the last few years how inaccessible council officers have become when trying to find some answers which could be a result of change in Council's Code of Conduct. I spoke with Dr. Catherine Strong of Massey University's Business School, whose specialty is journalism, particularly around the topic of media freedom. Dr. Strong's academic paper around controversial wording in local government's codes of conduct will be published later this year in the Australian Journalism Review. Well, thank you, Kathy, for joining us today. I appreciate your time. And what exactly is the Code of Conduct for councils?
Well, by law, every council has to have a code of conduct, and the Auditor General's office actually monitors this. This has been in existence since about 2002, this requirement. But the only thing it says is it has to have a code of conduct. Nothing about what has to be in it, what sections, what it covers, or anything. And a code of conduct is just an agreed agreement on how they deal with each other, how they deal with staff, how they conduct themselves.
And so what's motivated you to do the research around these codes of conduct?
I was tipped off that that a council was controlling their councillors, their elected members, by the code of conduct. They actually said, we can control them talking to the media through our code of conduct, which was really a surprise to me. So when I looked at it, yep, sure enough, there was a little phrase that basically said elected members couldn't criticize council in the media. And so, of course, I looked at all councils up and down the country and to see what this is. And most councils have used the template that's been given to them by the local government New Zealand Association, which basically says we have a free media, that elected members, of course, can talk to the media because in their capacity. Just make sure that they identify what's a personal opinion and what's a council opinion. However, I found 10 councils that had inserted a little phrase that said their elected officials cannot criticize council or any of its policies when talking to the media. To me, that's so disturbing, because we live in a free a democracy, and the elected officials of all people are not working for council. They're working for the residents or the public.
With these city councils adopting the phraseology that we've talked about, do you think it's a deliberate attempt at gagging or an innocent response and kind of laziness, really?
Well, that's a really, really interesting question. Why do they do it? Now, number one, first of all, some of the councils came back to me and it sounded like, it was a little bit of an oversight. But the fact that they haven't changed and there's now more, several councils have been quite openly said, we put this phrase in to control some of our renegade councillors. They've been quite open about it, is that they did it because they wanted to stop some councillors going to the media and making criticisms.
Where does Nelson City Council fit into all of this?
Nelson City Council is such an interesting part of this. When I first did the research more than a year ago, their code of conduct basically was pretty safe. It was purely a nice democratic outline of officials can talk to the media, of course, as long as they simply just make it clear whether it's their personal opinion or official opinion. So, and it was a variation of the original template that was given out in 2002. Okay, so then we've made this publicity, and now they've changed it. In the middle of the term, which is quite fine, they have changed it and included this really disturbing, controlling phrase. So instead of becoming more democratic, they have become less democratic over the last year.
I think your research has highlighted a really important issue, and I think it's fantastic what you've done, and I'm hoping that what's been highlighted will cause the public to awaken to this, and perhaps we might see a change in the terminology.
So yeah, I would really love to see a groundswell of support from the public that actually watches their council elected, and when this comes up says, wait a second, let's look at this wording a little more carefully.
With Dr. Strong's research being made public, perhaps we will see attention being drawn to the obstructive wording used around Nelson's Council's Code of Conduct with the media. Concerns over the fundraising timeline put on the Society of Modellers by Council to find $600,000 to keep the Tahunanui Modellers Pond in operation is increasing as the fundraiser of the deadline of September gets closer. So Mainland requested a response by Nelson's Mayor Rachel Reese about Council's position with the modellers over the pond.
Mainland asked the Mayor how the Council could justify asking a small group to fundraise such a large amount of money. She replied that representatives from the group indicated to Council that they had already had interest from sponsors and felt that their fundraising efforts would be well supported by the wider community. We asked if the Council was listening to the voice of the community, and the Mayor replied yes. In discussions about the Modellers Pond over recent years, community opinion has differed, with many supporting the continued maintenance and others signalling that they don't want further investment. The fundraising efforts of the club over the coming months will give the community an opportunity to express their support in a very tangible way. She said should the target be reached, Council will equal that investment to give the facility a secure future as indicated by that level of community support. Mainland asked what will Council be doing to assist the modellers to achieve their fundraising goals, and the Mayor replied, the group has met with Council's Community Partnerships Advisor for fundraising advice. This included guidance on how and when to approach the major community funding organisations for grants. The group itself must make the approaches and funding applications. Council does not play a role in that. She said that the current preferred option should,
Chrissy Small caught up with Nelson musician Ali Cook to talk about her successes within the industry.
Your new album, which has been out for a little while now, Horseshoe Rodeo Hotel. It's doing really well, and of course we've got New Zealand Music Month, but this is doing really well in Australia. Tell me the reasons around that.
Well, I've done a lot of activity in Australia, played at a lot of festivals, etc. So it's, that's probably had a lot to do with it. And then I work with a good team on the ground over there with Therese McKee at K2 Promotions that I work with. And so I'm just constantly doing radio interviews, like every day. Today, I've got 3 radio interviews with Australia, so I ring over and then when I'm there I go and see them. So it's about building relationships, I guess, with the people that play my music.
Do you have the same kind of rapport with broadcasters here in New Zealand?
Well, there isn't the large community network that there is in Australia. So there's a very large community radio station network over there, huge, hundreds of stations, with specialist shows and lots of country shows, whereas you don't have that here. There is some low-powered stations in New Zealand, and certainly I do get support from them, and one of the commercial broadcasters has a country show once a week, and I do get good support there as well, but it's just not as much as there is in Australia, really.
Okay, so what about locally here in Nelson? Who supports your music here?
Well, there's probably Fresh FM would be the only station that I would get play on unless I was doing an interview on a commercial station and they had a gap for a play, but that's pretty rare. So yeah, it's really more online, I think people are online and they're accessing their music differently now, and that's what it's about, is capturing the online audience as much as anything. For an independent artist like me, I'm looking at new ways to actually access and grow my fan base, and streaming is part of that. So, who doesn't have Spotify on at a party and put what they want on there? They will find that there's the odd artist not on Spotify, but it's like you can't fight what's happening. It's like them turning around when tapes and EPs went out and going, well, I'm not going on a CD, because I want them to buy an LP. It's you have to move with the times, I think, and you have to be dynamic and look for the changes and move ahead of the changes. That's one of the things that I've looked to do all the way along as an independent artist.
Of course, you are working with a great producer, Alan Jansen of How Bizarre fame, and he's worked on both your albums, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been the producer of both. That's Horseshoe Rodeo Hotel, and that's the current album, and also Brand New Day, which was my first album. So I've done 2 albums with him now. He's great. He's a great producer. He wrote one of the songs on here, Midnight Cowboys, that went to #1 in Australia in a record-breaking leap. It went from number 39 to #1 on the airplay charts over there, and now my new single is Message in a Cloud, which is quite interesting. With Message in a Cloud, I've brought it much more rootsy, and I actually shot the video here, which I'll give you guys. I shot the video here in the Nelson region.
We've actually got it.
Oh, have you got it already? Oh, thank you. You're playing it already. So I wanted to kind of show the area that I live in. I guess the video before I showed Australia, because I did it up in the Blue Mountains, and this one I wanted to show where I live, and so that was part of the initiative. So that is now the 3rd official single, plus I had a pre-release from that album that went to #5 over there as well. That was before the album was out, so I guess I've had 4 tracks off it that have been in the top 20 charts in Australia, so I'm pretty pleased with that, with 3 more singles to come.
Okay, now Ali, we of course a hit in Australia, but are you disappointed with the way your music gets treated here in New Zealand?
It's sort of difficult. I mean, it's very much like an old boys club, you know, and I'm not afraid to say it because I'm not part of the old boys club. They pretty much control who gets the awards, who does everything, and if you're not in that clique, you're not in that clique. And I'm not really worried about being in that clique because I think about my music on a global perspective. The internet is global. It's no longer territorial, and I guess that's the thing that a lot of the major record companies, people will know that when they go to look for a YouTube and they find you can't watch that in your country. Well, that's because that act is signed to certain territories and not here, so you're not allowed to view it in New Zealand. But that is not the way the world works anymore, and so the world works on a global perspective. Anybody can look and download my music from anywhere in the world, so I look at it on a global perspective rather than looking at it on a regional perspective, which I think is the difference.
What would you like to say to all those upcoming musicians out there that are really trying to find their footing in the industry?
Just stay true to who you are and work to who you are, and realise that actually you can do quite a bit yourself. Be prepared to be dynamic yourself. No longer is there the days of I just sit back and do my music and the record company's going to do all that for me. Well, there's only a very, very small percentage of people ever get to sign like that, and when they do, you've actually signed your life away, you know, so you're on a very tiny percentage of what the income is. And right now the streams and downloads, of course, is reducing the income, which is what the whole industry as a whole complains about. So do more yourself, be dynamic, and think of ways to market that are new. That's what I'm constantly looking for, new ways to market. If you can't go out and you can't pull a crowd, pull 3 bands together, and then all 3 of your friends, family and fans will come and you'll have a good night because you've all pulled in people. So work together with other creatives. That would be my number one step to move forward once you've got your band up and running. And you.
After the break, we'll bring you the latest weather update and some events and happenings coming up from around the region.
Are you looking for a scooter, walker, wheelchair, baby seats or pushchairs? Then come in and see the Nelson Region Specialist at Mobility for You, 269 Queen Street, Richmond, opposite the library. We have a huge selection of scooters, walkers, wheelchairs and accessories, along with a free booklet guide. We also provide a breakdown service if you ever get a puncture or a flat battery. We have fully equipped service vans to rescue you. Hi, I'm Robin Jordan and I invite you to call in and see the friendly team at Mobility for You, 269 Queen Street, Richmond, opposite the library.
We're the team at J-Car, right here in Nelson, 120 Hardy Street. Our shop is full of electronic items,
including security alarm systems, electronic components,
solar and power,
electronics toys,
sound systems, cables and much, much more. J-Car.
120 Hardy Street, Nelson.
Sit and Be Fit is on at the Victory Community Centre Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. at the Victory Community Church, 238 Upper Vanguard Street. School terms only. Fun while you get fitter, work at your level.
On behalf of the team here at Mainland Television News, thank you for joining us.
supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.